Here we go again. Good evening again, YouTube friends. It's Trevor again. And tonight, I guess I'm going to go ahead and do a more in-depth... Fuck it, it's not in-depth. I got everything I needed from the first time. Part 2 of The Last Jedi review. What more can be said about this movie except a massive disappointment? And yes, you've got these internet trolls going on Rotten Tomatoes and making fake accounts, but let's be honest with each other. I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. I'm sure many of you are. Were you satisfied with the movie? I wasn't. Some of you probably will be. Some of you probably won't be. It doesn't really matter who liked it or who didn't like it. Now it's all about this rating online now because, well, it's being hijacked. I didn't like it. My brother, who me and him grew up on Star Wars, he didn't like it. And me and him sat down here in this basement many hours just going over theories of what could happen in episode 8, and we were completely disappointed. Now granted, I didn't want this whole movie to be about, fan service. I didn't want everything we've ever imagined about Luke Skywalker to come to fruition on the screen. I knew that would make it hokey. I understand filmmaking. I don't need it force-fed to me in the way I've always imagined it in my head. Sometimes it's more interesting to watch it through the eyes of someone else's head. And I can always forgive a filmmaker for at least trying to go there in that direction, at least trying to take us and show us something from his point of view. But Rian Johnson's point of view is not only skewed when it comes to the visuals of Star Wars, it is fucking skewed off the goddamn cliff when it comes to the story. I don't know what kind of huevos Rian Johnson has when it comes to rewriting and restructuring the greatest cinematic hero that the world has ever known. Luke fucking Skywalker. This is the Skywalker saga, right, Disney? So why would you paint him like a little bitch who doesn't know his place in the galaxy anymore, who has lost touch with the Force? No, he didn't lose touch with it. He cut himself off from it. Grand Jedi Master Luke Skywalker decided to cut himself off from the Force. Why would he abandon his sister? Especially after he tried to kill her son. Especially after her son becomes the right hand of Snoke and the First Order. This movie doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't know where the fuck Rian Johnson was hoping to take this, but it seems like he looked at everything J.J. Abrams set up in The Force Awakens, looked at all the questions raised, and went, don't want to answer, don't want to answer, don't want to answer, don't want to answer. I'll give a half-ass answer. I won't give an answer on that. I'll make you think about that. It's just bullshit. They gave him the second episode, the climax of the conflict in this trilogy, and all these questions that could have made for some fucking awesome Star Wars storytelling. I don't know what the fuck they were going for, except that they were lazy. They didn't want to have to develop any significance. They wanted to go somewhere new with it. I get it. You want Star Wars to be new. This is the Skywalker saga. It has to tie into itself. It has to be a self-contained story. But episode 8 took everything we know about it and went, that doesn't matter. So where are they going with it? Like I said, J.J. Abrams pitched his idea for episode 9. So I'm telling you right now, they don't know where it's going. They're hoping J.J. Abrams can pull a shit-covered rabbit out of his ass and make it look like a golden idol. They're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to do it. Star Wars is probably dead by now. Now, Rogue One had some success, and I was very enthralled by it. I think it's a fantastic Star Wars movie. Rogue One is up there, like past New Hope for me. Nowhere close to Empire, but past New Hope. It's good. But like I said, it's contained in the mythology of the saga we know. Now, Rian Johnson needs to take his ideas outside of the saga. I'll watch that. Guarantee it. Star Wars on it? Of course I'm gonna fucking watch it, okay? That's like a supermodel that everyone knows is in your bedroom with her legs spread asking you to take her. Of course you're gonna take it. Of course I'm gonna watch Star Wars. It's a no fucking brainer. But when it comes to the Skywalker saga, make it worth the 40 years it has carried us. Make it worth our while. Make us love it. Make us go, God almighty, I know what Rian Johnson was doing now. Let it pay off for people that aren't just fans of the original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy, or this new trilogy. Let it pay off for fans of all of them. You aren't gonna be able to do it. You'd need to clone Mark Twain, whoever wrote the Iliad or the Odyssey, I can't remember his fucking name. William Shakespeare, every great film writer in history, and mold them into one being to write this. And then you'd have to have a director, which is unfortunately J.J. Abrams. Give it to someone like Quentin Tarantino. Give him to that. I just watched Hateful Eight. That shit was amazing. That's character development. So he could take the structure of the story before him and go, this is Star Wars, it has to pay off. Remember where this comes from. And he could drive that bitch home and nail the fucking coffin shut. I'm on a tangent. I'm just saying, these have a formula. These have a pacing. I want to be surprised. I don't want to be disgusted. It's like being forced to drink another man's piss. It's just, this isn't right. This is not the Star Wars I know. This is what built blockbuster movies. I want a director to feel creative in the process of making a story and making a film visually, but I want it to make sense to not just that film, but the saga. Everyone in reviews said this feels like its own contained film. Yes, it does. It very much feels like its own contained thing. It's very much stands alone. I didn't want that. This is a saga. It needs to blend in with everything else because this has to tell an overall greater story. Now, what they do in 9 doesn't just have to pay off this trilogy. It needs to tie them all together and wrap it up. Because this needs to be the end of the Skywalker saga. After Mark Hamill is dead, yeah, you can say Ben Solo is a Skywalker, sure, but does he carry the name Skywalker? No, he doesn't. Does Rey carry the name Skywalker? Not that we know of. I still think that Kylo Ren was lying to Rey there. But that's just me. Maybe that's just fanboy wishful thinking, and I still believe that Snoke isn't dead. I'm sure there's going to be millions of theories about this going forward, but I don't want to believe that a character that was that fucking powerful is just written off. That's what Mark Hamill thought about this movie. That's what I think about this movie. That's what this movie thinks about this movie. Just like, fuck this. We're gonna go places you don't expect for the thrill of the shock value, because that's what we need to do with this movie. We need to top the shock of Darth Vader. No, you don't. I didn't want to be shocked in the point where I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I wanted to be shocked in the point that, oh my God, are they really gonna do this? That's exactly how I felt about Finn's character almost flying his speeder right in to that laser battering ram. He wanted it. He was ready to do it. And I think we all were right behind him going, go. Not because we hated his character, not because we're racist folks out in the Midwest and shit like that. No, because that was glory. Even though I don't condone suicide missions for the sake of political gain, he was saving the resistance, the last dozen or so survivors of the resistance. He was going to save them to make sure that that thing didn't break down the door. And yet, love came into the equation. Love can be just an overwhelming and irrational action and emotion as hatred. Love is just as dangerous as anger. as hatred. The light is just as dangerous as the dark. Why weren't they playing with this theme in the movie? The middle, the balance. That's what this needs to get to. That's what the whole purpose of the saga was about. Bringing balance to the Force. It can't just be all light, and it can't just be all dark. It can't be that the light defeats the dark and the light reigns supreme and that's balance. No. The dark must always survive if the light wants to survive, okay? It's yin and yang. And that's why I like this Rey and Ren. It's yin yang, Rey Ren. It's a yin, it's symbiosis. It's night and day. It's up and down, back and forth. It's the cyclical duality of the universe. That's the only thing that I was interested in this movie, was that duality between the light and the dark, between Kylo and Rey. I wanted them to be on screen more talking. I loved their chemistry. I loved the conflict between them and within them. It was equal in both of them. Both of them were struggling internally, and both of them were struggling externally. It was beautiful, and they wasted it. I don't know. I don't know how it could have been done. I'm not a screenwriter, but you could have hired a group of people to come up with a good goddamn story about this. And why the fuck did Luke Skywalker have to die after meditating? Yes, he was exerting himself with astral projection across the galaxy to send his image in a Force hologram on a planet thousands of light years away. But if that's the case, the Force weakened him, why didn't he take that kind of power of the Force to the fucking battlefield himself? If he has the power in the Force to throw himself an image across the galaxy, transcending space and time, why didn't he just show up? Why? Because that's what we would have expected? It's not just about expectation, it's about what's rational. It would have been much more rational for Luke to have shown up on the planet, put up one bitchin' of a fucking fight, and then meet his end. There, in battle, or in some self-sacrificial manner. This was not the Luke Skywalker we knew. We've all been waiting, and I think we were cheated out of it, of the Luke Skywalker we dreamed of. The son of Anakin Skywalker, the most powerful Force user in the history of the Jedi. His son. We saw what Vader did in Rogue One. We were all hoping for the same moment in Episode 8 with Luke. We all were, and you know you were. If you're a Rogue One fan and you're a Star Wars fan, you were hoping we'd see that badass moment from Luke. We kinda got it, but it was like a wet dream that was awesome when you were going through it, but then you wake up in a mess. And that's what this was. We woke up after a wet dream in a bit of a mess in our fucking pants, going, what the fuck? This movie was a waste of my time and my money. These critics out there are saying that people like me are haters. We just want to hate because it gets more likes, more clicks, more subscriptions, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck about popularity. I give a fuck about Star Wars, and this one disappointed me. And if Disney can't understand that, well then I think you need to take a step back from your fucking self and literally fuck your own face. Because you didn't understand what people love about Star Wars. Star Wars is always going somewhere different. That's what I liked about George Lucas. Even though the prequels were shit, at least they felt like Star Wars, and we didn't really know what we were going to get from them. As far as aliens or environments or different situations. Yeah, they rhymed in spots, but it still felt like a Star Wars fucking movie. I don't recommend you see it in theaters. I'm going to tell you that right now. Save your money. It's a lot cheaper to buy it and then watch it in little bursts over about 10 years after only spending what I spent to take it one time. I could have spent $25 for the Blu-ray and just been disappointed many times over instead of twice, which that was actually 50 bucks. I spent $50 to be disappointed. I could have spent 25 to be disappointed for life, okay? I could have took the fucking cut in the bargain, okay? But I didn't. I didn't buy into the extra warranty. You know what? Fuck this movie. That's what I want to say. Fuck this movie. I hate that I hate it. I don't want to hate this movie. I didn't want to hate it. I didn't want to hate it. I wanted to believe that this this trilogy was just going to be like perfect. Bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. You got some cojones, Rian Johnson, for disrespecting Luke Skywalker like that. For doing to him what you did to him for the sake of being edgy, the sake of being unpredictable. Who gives a fuck about predictability? People wanted Luke Skywalker. This movie was like politically driven all over, and I noticed that very early on. It's like, they're pushing something here, and I don't want fucking politics in my goddamn Star Wars. I go to Star Wars to get away from having to hear about politics. And if there are politics in Star Wars, it's about Star Wars politics, not Earth politics, okay? Yes, that happens in the real world, but it's not part of America's, agenda when it comes to social justice and shit like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fucking teabagger. I'm not a fucking alt-righter. I don't give a fuck about politics in general, but mainly because politics is a tool of division. All it does is divide people. It doesn't bring them together. Star Wars is supposed to be something that brings people together. It's a shared love, like McDonald's. People go to McDonald's because it's good. Not really, because it's a decent meal and it's cheap. And I'm gonna budget. But it's those things that bring people together. It's an umbrella of a corporation, of course. But Star Wars is a story that has been told to us since we were children, and it's being made anew, and we're trying to pass it down to our kids. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little drunk and a little pissed. I haven't seen it since the second time I saw it. I have no want or care or desire to go back and see it again. That's not a good sign. I think episode 2, I went back 4 times. I guess maybe just to convince myself to get on board with it. Like, do I agree with it? At the end, I'm just like, so I guess I've known this pain before. What am I doing? Talking about Star Wars. This movie pissed me off, and I don't know why I'm even still fucking talking about it. It's like wasting my breath. I don't want to waste my breath on hate, because I hated this movie. I hated this fucking movie. I'm not gonna lie. I hate it because it's not Star Wars. It's not the Star Wars we know. And that's the direction they want to go, but this is the Skywalker saga. This is the Bible. You just don't go fucking changing the Bible. At least not if you ain't got good reason to. There's nothing behind this. It's like a new fucking religion came into the mix, and now we all have to bow to it. Like, oh, nothing. There's nihilism. Snoke's nobody. Rey's nobody. Nihilism. Nothing. Nothingness. Doesn't matter. Randomness. No, this is the Force. Fulfill your destiny. Destiny. Okay, this isn't a nihilistic universe. It's filled with so many things that are happening at once. And they're all the will of this force between the good and the bad, the light, the dark, the up, the down, the left, the right. It's what's holding it all together. I loved how Luke explained that in this movie. That it's not the good happening in the world and the bad happening in the world. It's what's in between them being pulled. That's the Force. It's bullshit.